Okay. You guys see this glass? Now, how would you make an image of this glass? So here's an example. You could try something like that. So as an artist, I'm continually faced with this question of representation. So how do I choose to represent a subject? And then how do I go about making my decisions when representing a subject? So this semester was all about defining my approach to representing my art, or I guess creating my art. I did it in a bit of an unconventional way for this class. I don't want to stand up here today and sell you a product. I want to talk to you guys kind of about a process. So my original idea for a 5x5 slide, I had 5 principles for creating my art, and I was going to make an image for each principle and put them up here for you guys. And then I realized that the principles were made to spark creativity, and I had principles that were more or less impossible tasks for me. And so I realized that in making an image for each principle, not only was that like kind of defining the impossible for me, but it was just like a false attempt. So instead, I have actually changed everything, and I have 2 tenets and 8 guides that are my manifesto. And I'm not going to go through all of the 8 different guides. I assume that they will change over time. I expect them to change. But today, I want to focus just on my 2 tenets. So my original tenet, hold on, sorry. The invisible is more valid than the tangible. As a photographer, I approach this by, I want to photograph something that you can't see. And I'm going to, pardon this, it's a very long quote, bear with me here. I'm going to go into a quote by the Swiss artist Alberto Giacometti, in which he tries to define the artistic dilemma of representing a glass on a table. Glass on a table. So here we go. I'm going to give the quote for you guys. It might be supposed that realism consists in copying a glass as it is on the table. In fact, one never copies anything but the vision that remains of it at each moment, the image that becomes conscious. You never copy the glass on the table, you copy the residue of a vision. Each time I look at the glass, it has an air of remaking itself. That's to say, its reality becomes uncertain because its projection in my head is uncertain or partial. One sees it as if it were disappearing, coming into view again, disappearing, coming into view again. That's to say, it really always is between being and not being. And it's this that one wants to copy. So as a photographer, it's easy to learn the technical skills to make an aesthetic representation of a subject. But is that enough to make something be art? So for myself and Giacometti, the truest subject is not the depicted subjects, but rather it's the artist's attempt to make visible a subject. The act of representation is the subject. I'm going to repeat that. The act of representation is the subject. I embrace this idea by pursuing invisible subjects. Making the visible intangible becomes my artistic quest. So I have a new body of work in which I am making photographs of the metaphorical space of the in-between. For me, the in-between is the space of transition. It's the distance from here to there, from then to now. It's a space of tension and unresolved. It embraces uncertainty and fragility. And I approach this project by using myself as the subject. I perform for the camera, and the image that you're currently looking at is Holding My Breath, attempt number 9. The goal of this image was not to, well, I guess it was to create an image that depicted tension in a transitory state. It's the moment that the body can't hold its course of action any longer. When the act of holding the breath becomes excruciating. That's the moment of this image. But at the same time, it's an image of nothing. Without the title, you guys don't know that I'm holding my breath in this image. It becomes an image where the body is in tension, and you as a viewer are aware of that. But the moment of tension is frozen. You see the tendons in the neck, the collarbone is hollowing out. There's this kind of lovely crease where the body is folding in on itself. And this leads me to my second tenet. In making visible the intangible, I shall do so through embodiment and not description. Description is merely a language. It's a didactic form of representation. It's a regurgitation of sorts. So in remembering Giacometti's glass, it wasn't about making the glass. It was about the artist's understanding of the glass and how to represent the glass. the act of representing is the subject. So for me, embodiment embraces the act. It's the performance. It's about the moments. In creating an image of holding my breath, I refuse to speak a known language, which might be puffed out cheeks or underwater submersion. I invented my own language by embodying this act. So I don't need you to buy into my 2 tenets. They're for me personally, but I should end with the fact that I'll be teaching a course this fall in which I will ask each of my students to develop their own artistic approach to the various projects that we do in class. And so I hope that they can at least understand the benefit of defining their own course of action, because it allows them to speak specifically, and it will keep their work and their voices fresh and innovative. Thank you. I think I went way over. Yes, questions?
So how would you define the process that generated this photograph in contrast to Fluxus, which is meticulous documentation of also sometimes a process?
So I think that's just for me, that I want my product to be a photograph. Like Fluxus, it was all about performance. And the documentation didn't really matter except to prove that a performance had happened. And for me, I want it distilled down to just this image, and that maybe you can get something from just this one image. Thank you.